The Galactic Council had existed for 47 million cycles, governing over 12,000 sentient species across 900 galaxies. In all that time, they had established countless regulations, trade agreements, and territorial boundaries. But there was one rule that superseded all others, carved into every starship's navigation computer, whispered in every academy across the stars: do not disturb the humans. Vexar, a Krillian scientist with 6 optical sensors, and a mind that had never encountered a problem it couldn't solve, found this rule utterly ridiculous. Ancient superstition, he muttered to his research team as their vessel approached the Sol system. Every species has legends, but we are scientists. We deal in facts, not fairy tales. His colleagues shifted nervously. The Krillians were known throughout the galaxy as the most logical, data-driven species to ever achieve faster-than-light travel. They had cataloged 17,000 star systems, reverse-engineered the technology of extinct civilizations, and could calculate quantum probabilities in their sleep. Yet even they knew better than to approach the Sol quarantine zone. Vexar, his co-pilot, chittered, her translator rendering her concern into standard galactic. The warning beacons are 3 million cycles old, Vexar interrupted. Whatever threat existed then is long gone. Think of the knowledge we could gain. The humans were once the apex predators of this sector. If we could study their ruins, analyze their technology, if their ruins, someone whispered. Vexar ignored the comment. His sensors had already penetrated the quarantine field, and what he saw made his primary heart race with excitement. The third planet, Earth, according to ancient records, was pristine. Oceans of blue, continents of green, cities that gleamed like jewels even from orbit. But there was no activity. No ships, no transmissions, no signs of active civilization. They're dormant, Vexar announced. Hibernating, perhaps. Or extinct. Either way, they won't notice a simple scientific survey. He piloted the ship through Earth's atmosphere, descending toward what appeared to be a massive structure in the northern continent. It was a city, but unlike anything in the galactic database. The architecture was both ancient and impossibly advanced. Buildings that seemed to grow from the Earth itself, their surfaces shimmering with dormant energy. Vexar landed in what appeared to be a central plaza. The moment his ship's landing struts touched the ground, every member of his team felt it, a pulse of awareness that washed over them like a tidal wave. Vexar, his co-pilot gasped. We need to leave now. But it was too late. The buildings around them began to glow, soft at first, then brighter until the entire city hummed with power. And then, from the largest structure at the plaza's center, a door opened. Commander Lyra emerged. She was human, unmistakably so, matching every description in the forbidden archives. 2 arms, 2 legs, bipedal, fragile-looking. She stood perhaps 6 feet tall, with dark hair pulled back from a face that might have been beautiful if not for the expression it wore, the cold, terrible calm of a predator assessing prey. She wore a uniform that seemed woven from starlight itself, and when she moved, reality seemed to bend slightly around her, as if the universe was making room. You were warned, Lyra said, her voice carrying across the plaza without need for amplification. Every translator in Vexar's ship rendered her words perfectly, as if she spoke directly into their minds. Vexar's confidence evaporated. He had studied xenobiology for 200 cycles. He understood fight-or-flight responses, predator instincts, threat displays. What he saw in Commander Lyra's eyes was none of those things. It was the absolute certainty of a god who had just been disturbed from their rest. We meant no harm, Vexar stammered. We are scientists here only to— I know what you are, Lyra interrupted. And I know why you came. You thought the warnings were myths. You thought we were extinct or weak or irrelevant. She took a step forward, and despite the distance, Vexar felt the temperature in his ship drop. You thought you were clever. Around the plaza, other humans began to emerge. Dozens at first, then hundreds. Each wore the same uniform. Each moved with the same terrible grace. They didn't speak, didn't threaten. They simply stood there watching. And Vexar understood with horrifying clarity that these were not humans waking from sleep. These were humans who had been waiting. We didn't leave the galaxy, Lyra continued, her voice soft but carrying the weight of eons. We didn't go extinct. We didn't ascend to another plane. We simply decided that the universe was too young, too chaotic, too loud. Her eyes focused on Vexar with laser precision, So we made a deal with the Galactic Council. We would sleep, and in exchange we would not interfere. All we asked was that we not be disturbed. She was directly in front of his ship now, close enough that Vexar could see his own reflection in her eyes, and what he saw terrified him. Behind his reflection, in the depths of her gaze, were stars being born and dying, galaxies colliding, the birth and death of universes. "You've broken that deal," Lyra said. Vexar's ship began to shake, not from any external force, but from within, as if every atom of its structure was being individually examined and judged. His instruments went haywire, displaying readings that violated every known law of physics. "Please," Vexar whispered. "I didn't know. We'll leave. We'll never come back." "Oh, you'll leave," Lyra agreed. "And you will deliver a message. The rule stands. It has always stood. It will always stand." She placed one hand against the hull of his ship, and Vexar watched in horror as data began flooding his systems, not just information, but understanding. In an instant, he saw it all. The human wars that had scorched entire star systems. The weapons they had built that could unmake reality itself. The empire they had forged across 3 galaxies before they simply stopped. Not because they were defeated, not because they evolved beyond violence, but because they chose to sleep rather than rule over a universe they found boring. And he saw what would happen if they woke up fully. If humanity decided the current galactic order was too noisy, too chaotic, too inconvenient. "Do you understand now?" Lyra asked. "Do you see why there was one rule?" Vexar couldn't speak. His entire species' philosophy, their belief in logic and reason, crumbled in the face of this terrible revelation. Humans hadn't been defeated or contained. They had contained themselves. And the leash they wore was one they held in their own hands. "Go," Lyra commanded, and Vexar's ship launched itself into space without any input from its pilot. Within seconds, they cleared Earth's atmosphere, then the quarantine zone, then the entire Sol system. Behind them, the city's lights dimmed. The humans returned to their buildings. Commander Lyra stood alone in the plaza for a moment longer, looking up at the stars with something like sadness in her eyes. Then she, too, returned to her rest. Vexar delivered his message to the Galactic Council. The recording of his encounter was broadcast to every species in known space. The rule was reinforced, carved not just into navigation, computers, but into the very genetic memory of every spacefaring civilization. Do not disturb the humans, not because they would destroy you, though they could, not because they would conquer you, though they would, but because the universe was simply better off with humanity asleep, and pray to whatever gods you worship, that they never decide to wake up